purchase. There's always exceptions for pieces and parts, but that's a quick way to just kind of get started. And appropriated funds, once you've paid something out of appropriated funds, you're stuck. They're staying there. They can't be moved. And the reason why is that we're budgeted money from the state. We don't have that money sitting somewhere that we can move around. So once something's paid on appropriated accounts, we draw that money from the state. Once we've drawn that money from the state, there's not a mechanism to give it back. So if you want something moved from an appropriated to a local account, it can't be done because we've already paid it, we've already drawn down the money, and there's no mechanism to return it. So if you're ever making a purchase and you aren't sure, use a local account. We have many more options as far as where it really needs to land if it starts in a local. If you do it out of appropriated and then realize it's wrong, you're stuck. If you pay it out of a local and then decide that it could be an appropriated purchase, we can make that happen. So that's one of the whys behind that whole appropriated piece. The local funds, there's just less restrictions. We have more control over those, and we can move those around and do more variety of things with that. Grants purchases are a whole other ballgame. If you work with grants and you're making a purchase, it has to go through that grant account because of the approval levels for grants. So I don't know how many of you in here work with grants, but grants are a whole other thing. You don't want to err on the side of caution and use a local account if it should be grant because of the approval levels for those purchases. So Jess talked about the poster purchase, which I mentioned. So before you purchase those posters, you need to see if you have the budget. Like, do you have the budget to pay for those posters, and how will you, and what will you use? So oh great, my mouse is gone. So why would my mouse be gone if I am not on Teams and I'm not? What can I disconnect and still have that screen?
I don't think your mouse has anything to do with Teams though.
Well, I wouldn't think so either, but there it is
There it
after
is.
I unplug that, so. Right or wrong, we're going with it.
It's a reset.
Yeah, well, I do numbers, I don't do IT, there's a reason I'm not in that department. They'd fire me. Okay, so I know we introduced budget to actuals first, but I don't find it all that useful. I really want you guys to use Finance Query, and there is good reasons for that. I'm going to use, I found an account that I wanted to use just to show you. So this is, if I just access just this cost center and I apply filter, which you guys are familiar with this piece, but I want to show you some
Do you want us
reasons.
to use that?
Huh?
Can we put in that, do we have access to that?
You won't have do you have access to your own?
Yes.
Yeah,
Just
put
use
one of your own in, yep, go for it. That would be great. And so the reason I like Finance Query is because of this little number right down over here, this remaining balance. Now, in this case, we still have salary on here. This isn't all that useful to you guys. You clearly don't have $436,000 to spend. So what I want you to be able to do is go into these objects, because I'm sure you guys have heard support funds, support funds, support funds. Support funds are made up of your irregular help, which we call IH, your operating expenses that we refer to as OE, and your capital outlay we refer to as CO. Those are the three objects that you're responsible for within your department. The salary, the fringe, you don't have to worry about. So if you go into object and you select the three objects, which the 54110 is IH, and you can just hit enter between these and you can see them going down below right here. So you can just keep hitting enter, and we're gonna take OE in there, and we're gonna take capital outlay.
one?
What are those?
55000 and then 56000.
And what are they each again? Can you say what they are?
54110 is your IH. 55000 is your OE. And 56000 is capital outlay. So then we're gonna scroll down here and get to the apply filter. Okay, so this is a better picture for you all for what you're responsible for. These are the three objects you're responsible for. So in this case, they still have, even though they've overspent in capital outlay, that's fine, because overall, these three things are a net positive. When you wanna worry is if these three things are getting close to zero, because what you don't wanna do is have them go into the negative. Once you get here, if you click on these umbrella things, you're not gonna get a lot of information, because it is where everything rolls up to. So the only thing you're gonna find in the umbrellas is the base budget that you get every year, the encumbrances, which is what was outstanding last year, brought into this year, and your carry forward. The carry forward is the remaining balance you had at the end of FY23. You carry forward 75% of that. So that is what that carry forward number is. So we want to get back over to the other, because I want you to see how you open these up. And I chose these account for a reason, because of this encumbrance number right here. So we're kind of encompassing that as well, because what you wanna do, once you've made that purchase and you've gotten your posters, and you want to make sure that what you put in your PO is what it cost. And if for whatever reason it wasn't, which we'll see what these are right here. Okay, so up here is these encumbrances that were listed back in that object code. And this one is nothing to worry about. 6.4, it's probably still outstanding. They may still be waiting for product. This one, 7/1/23, that's clear last July. And this account we're holding $229.50 waiting for this to get paid. Bob's Pet and Pond, I'm sure they'd be screaming if we actually owed them that money. But when you find an encumbrance like this, I would say anything older than 3 months, look into it. See if are you actually still waiting for that product? If you're still waiting and that encumbrance needs to stay because, things are back ordered, it takes a while. If it's a true product you're waiting for and it's back ordered, leave it alone, it's fine. But probably if we click into this, we see that it's for heating pads, water dishes, all these things. I'm sure it was probably for the snakes, which I don't believe they're over there anymore. So this needs cleared. And I think Jess told you guys how to handle that from her standpoint. That isn't a me thing. I just look at the budget, like, hey, you need to look at this encumbrance, see if it needs to be cleared, and email purchasing, because they can help you with that piece. So, let me get back to this again, because this is really, I want to be sure when you're dealing with appropriated accounts, I would build this right here, just like we have with these three objects, and then, oops, I need to go back one more maybe. Oh, I just need to hit filter. Because you can save this so that you don't have to go and do that every single time. You can save this criteria. And I'll just call it, I know this is PLMS accounts. And I'll just save it. So then it's listed right up here. So if you want to know what your support funds are in PLMS, you just select that. If you've got 4 or 5 appropriated accounts, build one for each one of these. And I would say to run them separately, because if you run them all together, you're gonna get a grand total over here of all the accounts. And that may not be all that useful if you're wanting to know about one specific account. So as far as your appropriated accounts, I would build one of these for each one if you have multiples. So, any questions on appropriated accounts?
I have kind of a specific one, and it might not be
No.
relevant, but,
Go for it.
are there instances where travel is appropriated?
That you would probably need to talk to, AP or, you know, somebody in the controller's office about travel. Because I'm just not familiar enough
Mm-hmm.
to give you an answer I'm confident with, let's put it that way, because, I mean, I know there is, because I've seen travel in appropriated accounts,
Mhm.
but I couldn't tell you when it is and when it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that, there's probably policies out there, which is something I was going to bring up later as well, something I learned just last week, it just never occurred to me, but somebody called me and said, hey, we have this event, we wanna buy food, can we use appropriated money? And I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. Well, Jeanette heard me, and she's working deep dive in all these policies, right? So she printed me off a policy and brought it to me. And there it is, the big picture of when you can and what funds to use when you're purchasing food and what kind of events. And so I think that is it was a good reminder to me that there's probably information out there. You're gonna have to spend the time to find it. And I would too. I mean, the policies are long, I mean, there's a lot of them. But there is guidance out there. But it is a dig to find them. To find the right one, I would say, just because the number of policies that are out there. And I know policies are all being updated currently. At least in our area, every department is working on that. I know Cindy's working on ours, although probably not right now with budget, but, so I wouldn't like print them off and rely on that. Much like our forms, we kind of want you to go look at it in the moment because the things change. Same with forms. Forms change. Don't download a form and think that 6 months from now that form hasn't changed. We want you to go get those new every time so that if there has been a change, you know it. So that is appropriated. I'm gonna clear this one out and go show you, I can hit the right buttons here, a local account. Which, local account, we really don't need these objects because we aren't, I mean, you may have some salary in a local account, but you still wanna pay attention on local accounts to what funds you have remaining. Okay, why didn't that work? Cause I wasn't in there. 603. I don't type on my laptop very often, so it's hard to get used to that from a keyboard. Okay, so let's close that back up, get it out of the way. So this is a local account, and local accounts, I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but they're not budgeted. You're never gonna have budget here. It's fine. If your fourth digit is a 6, it's local funds, you don't need a budget here. What you're concerned about is this number right over here, this remaining balance. Because as far as local accounts go, like, there's just more freedom with them, and you can use whatever object codes you need, you know, that's relevant for whatever purchase you're making. But for like the poster example, and you decided it needed to be local funds, you'd wanna be looking right here. And if for some reason your posters were gonna be more than $633, you need to find a different local account because you don't have enough money in there. So, as far as your purchase goes, you would be limited to what is here. Can a local account go into deficit? Yes, but you're gonna get a call from the budget office when we run our monthly things that says, hey, your local account's in deficit. what account do you have that we can take some funds for to clear that deficit, which I would say, June, I'm surprised, I would be thinking you've probably already been getting some of those calls from Cindy. I'm glad she gets to make those calls and not me. So, I kind of wanted you guys, if you have access to laptops and you know some of your own appropriated accounts, to go in there and try this scenario that I just did. And I mean, you're more than happy to, use more than one appropriated account. I just think for ease of, at a glance, what kind of money you have in there, it's easier to run them separately. Because if you run them together, then you get that grand total. And if you're trying to decide which account you have funds to do, that's not the best process there. So, any questions so far? No? Anybody try it with their own account? Did you get in there, Con?
Yes.
Were you able to separate it by objects?
So when you were saying the supporting funds,
Yep.
that was a kind of the formula for appropriated.
Yes.
If it's a local account, just let every object
I think so,
flood
yeah.
in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I can see, that we're not in a deficit. And appropriated.
Yay! Did anybody else try it? Any questions? Were you able to separate it, or is it all stuff you already knew? That's
Help to clarify.
okay. And like I need feedback from you guys because a lot of times you guys figure this stuff out before I do. I mean, this is the budget office's baby, right? We do this, but I don't use it the same way you use it. And so any feedback you can give me about how to help people moving forward, particularly new people, and directing them and making sure they have what they need, let me know, because again, I look at things in the grand picture. I have access to all of the accounts, so if you're not sure about something you're seeing, call me. And if you see something in there that you go, look, I'm the one that does the P cards, or I'm the one that does the purchases, and I don't know what this is or who did it, give me a call. I can bring this up, bring up your account and drill in just like you can and help you figure it out. And if we get clear to it and you go, oh, I did do that, I don't care, like, it's fine, I'll help you figure it out. That's part of my job, and I think once F9 went away and you guys are having to kind of figure some of these things out yourself, call me more often. It's fine. It's fine. If it goes to voicemail, I'll get back to you, I promise.
So Brooke, if you are onboarding a brand new admin assistant and they've never seen any of this before, where should we start?
I think you should start, we have some videos out there.
Okay.
And so what I try to encourage people to do is go watch the videos, play with it a little bit, and then set up a Teams call with me. And that way I can see what you're seeing without hovering right over your shoulder, and can direct you or show you, share my screen, share your screen, go back and forth, whatever. I'm fine doing that. And I was debating, Vicki, and maybe you know the answer to this question, if we could develop a Teams for finance query, literally, so that when people do have questions, they can type it in there. Because like I said, a lot of times you guys know some pieces and parts that I don't even know.
Yeah.
I haven't explored, I haven't tried, or just don't know because I don't use it in the same capacity as you.
It's a good idea.
So I didn't know
Yeah, we
if
can.
admins already have one.
I don't
or-
think so.
Okay. Because I know there's a lot of work between admins. I've seen it, I've heard it, like so-and-so helped me do that,
Oh,
and so PAs in particular, I hear a lot of
yeah.
so-and-so helped me with PAs, and PAs are a whole another ball game,
Yeah.
which we hope is going away pretty soon. Yeah.
So one of the things, just to share, we were kind of talking about,
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of local accounts
Yep.
for TNI, for us, it's easier to just put it in your cost center, and then I don't know if you wanna show them, cause you guys did before, you just put it in your cost center and then do that export, the
Okay.
detailed CSV, I don't know if that's something you're gonna go over.
I wasn't this time, but here's the reason why. When I tried this today, cause I'm like, okay, export, I don't export, I'm able to find things other ways. I couldn't get it to a point where I had before where I could sort it and pivot it. And I was like, okay, am I just having troubles with this today? Cause I know I've been able to do that in the past, by date, separate it by month, so you could see exactly what you had spent every month.
And-
Don't remember how I did it.
And I don't even use it to the sort effect, I let it do the whole year every time, and I know where I've reconciled to, but then you can scroll through, and because it gives you can sort it by date, and then you can see.
And do you
each
do that in
category.
Finance Query or Budget to Actual? That was
Finance query.
Okay,
So
that was
finance
the other,
query.
I was playing with it this morning and I'm like, God dang it, how did I do that? Sort, cause it did it by month, it was pretty easy, or pivot table.
And it just shows everything, cause
excellent.
we get deposits as well, we get income,
Right.
and so for us,
Yeah.
you don't have to jump back and forth in these screens in between the cost centers, so it gives you like a whole picture, and so you can scroll through and see, oh, that was just payroll, so it's not something you have to worry about. But this was an invoice, this was a deposit, and make sure that your books are matching.
Right.
what's
Do you
posted.
know, do you run all your local accounts together or do you do
I
them
do my
separately?
local account separately, yes.
Separately.
Each one separately, and then just look at it.
I think separately is probably the best idea. I just think it's the cleanest picture. But again, you could save them all up here so you don't have to type them in every time. You just label them whatever you wanna label them, and you can have a whole stream down there. I will export this though, so we can see. And do you do
I
the
do
CS
Yeah, CSV, the detail.
detail? Okay, that's what I did this morning, and I,
Detail?
yeah. And honestly, I hadn't exported and tried to do that since our last training. And so then I'm like, I do not remember how I did this.
And so I
And
just
there it is. See, I did that in my office and it did not do that. It brought me the umbrella ones. And I'm like, that is not helpful at all.
I agree, sometimes it does things differently from time to time for me, so.
I was so mad because I'm like, I did want to show how to pivot it, because when you pivot it you can separate it out by month, which is helpful. But I'm like, okay, we're not going there because I can't get it to work in my office. It surely isn't going to work. I'm just deleting these blank columns because Pivot doesn't really like blank columns. But to do a pivot table, if you wanted to sort this by month, just click in any cell. Which I didn't have this, and we are a bit behind as usual, but we intend to have some scribes, couldn't even think of the word, for this kind of stuff. So if you just select what data you're wanting, which we already know it's that account, so we don't really need that. And just scroll down, we spent a lot of money on stuff. Okay, we're just gonna go with that being far enough. Be here all day. I know there's a faster way to do that as well, but, so if we wanted to do it by date, oh man, I think it just took my stuff away. Maybe not. Go back up, oh yeah, it didn't. So you get that little box when you have a pivot. And if you wanted to do it by date, and then I believe you have to come down here and go. See, and I didn't play with this because I couldn't get it to work. Well, I will get a scribe built for this because I do think it's helpful to be able to see it by month, because that's generally how you guys are reconciling things, right, is by month. And so, and I know my brain's not working very well.
Will you post it or send it?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk and see about getting that, a team site for this, because then I could put scribes in there. You could shoot off questions, cause like clearly Kayleen could have answered that, and if I'm not there or I don't answer, you know, anybody in the chat can help you out, and I just think it would be a good tool, cause I'm not always available, and like I said, you guys use it more, and probably just playing around have discovered more than I have. So I think it's a good idea, I just don't know how to make that happen, so I will ask some questions, because I don't know. Yeah.
So with the grant, since it doesn't come up the same way at all as this, but if I did it like by past months, like Kayleen was talking about, does that pop up for grants as, like it would have everything in there? Or does it take-
One thing this won't do, like if you, at the beginning, let me get back to the other, because up here, it gives you the actual idea that you could enter a month here and just get the month. But I've never gotten that to work. Have you, Kayleen? If you
I
just
always-
put July,
Nope, I always just wanna do exactly what you just did, and then
Yeah.
I don't even do the pivot, I just sort it by date, and then I can scroll down and just look through all the charges, cause
Okay.
sometimes things will post later,
right,
and you can
Right.
just scroll through and make sure you're still seeing everything that you
Yeah.
expect to be clear.
cause I know when we played with it in the past and we saw like, okay, I just wanna see my expenses for July, even though you put July 1 to July 31, it brought up everything, so it wasn't all that useful, so I think what Kayleen was saying is probably the most useful, yeah.
Okay.
And then if you need some like one-on-one help to make that happen, probably need to give me till maybe September, but then fill my calendar, I'm fine with it. Between now and September, maybe not, you might get pushed off. We're just, well, I'm sure you all probably want some contracts and stuff like that. Which has all been delayed, thank you to the state, but, it is what it is.
Can you said you have some videos out there. Can you just show us where to find those?
Well, I think they're on your
Oh,
PDT.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I will say, I learned from Julie back there, when she went to watch them, one of them says it's 4 hours long. It is not. It's like 30 minutes, maybe,
Psych.
maybe 30 minutes. What happened was we were recording. Someone who was watching the training did not log out. So until they logged out, it continued to record. So don't be intimidated by the, what did I say, was it 4 hours?
It was almost 4 hours.
Yeah, it's more like 30 minutes.
I put that off for forever.
That's so funny.
Watch 4 hours.
And I don't know, Vicky, do you know if there's a way to like,
I don't,
Yours,
but now
half
that
of
I know
that?
that, I might be able to go
Yeah.
out and edit.
yeah, so there's 3 videos out there, I don't even think total they're an hour and a half. But that's what I encourage people to start with,
Okay.
so they can at least get in, play around, look at it. So I'm not starting clear back from
Right.
scratch to get them started.
So
They
they're
have at
on,
least-
yeah, the professional development training website
Yes.
is where you would
Which I
go.
could probably still go out there. and find.
Yeah.
I always go here first just because I have it loaded. So we're gonna go to HR, maybe, or we're gonna go to JHR, whatever.
And if you scroll all the way down, professional development training is right above meet our staff. And then it's in LC state specific trainings, the third one down on the left.
Teams, there's finance query, budget to actuals. And that looks like it, I thought there was 3.
If you scroll over,
Oh, is there more?
yeah, hit that little arrow.
But honestly, I'm not sure I would waste my time with budget to actuals. And I just say that because you have to do the math yourself. So like, if it's the same information as finance query, but in finance query it will give you the balance, let's just go for the balance and not be trying to do the math. We didn't know that starting out. Starting out, we were only giving you budget to actuals, and the more we played with it, we're like, we don't want them to have to do the math. Like, that's our job, not your job. And so then when we started playing in finance query, we're like, this is where it's at. And this is more useful. And so, yeah, don't waste your time with budget to actuals. I wouldn't waste your time with the budget to actuals training. Focus on finance query. I think it's your best bet.
So maybe we'll just remove the budget to actuals one.
I think you might as well,
Okay.
and I'm gonna try and get people to quit referring to it. Because a lot of times they say budget to actuals and finance query. Well, your natural instinct, budget to actuals is listed first, you're gonna go there. And I don't think it's useful. Maybe somebody finds it useful, I do not. I
Okay.
do not, so. Any questions? Anything I didn't address that you think I should, or next time, or,
Anything you'd like to see
yeah.
at future trainings?
Is there a possibility for that little date box thing at the top to ever work?
No. That is, finance query is not anything we can manipulate. I think it's as it is. Cause I think there was something we were asking Dawn about, like, it'd be really nice if this could, and she's like, nope.
Hmm.
Can't do it.
Can they just remove it so that we don't keep thinking it'll work?
Which one?
No, because it's still pulling that whole year's data, so if we remove it, then it probably wouldn't work at all. But eventually, there will be some Power BI reports that are built for, specifically department-wise. I can't give you a time frame on that, because I don't know if we're building them, if IT's building them. I mean, IT's building some of our bigger ones right now, but the smaller department ones that would mimic like what you used to receive from the budget office, I don't know if we'll be building those, or if we'll have to have IT's help with that. I think once we also just hired a new person in the budget office, so we're not short for now. Cause Callahan went on to another position in the controller's office. So Kat started Monday, and as we start getting caught up, we can maybe start addressing some of those other things, cause I think the Power BI reports will be even more useful than the finance query, because it'll bring those into reports that you're more used to seeing, like F9, where it just handed it to you, so.
Will those dates work for us to see like past fiscal years? I never tried. Like if we wanted to look at,
You can access past fiscal years by just this drop down right here.
oh, okay.
I will say, pay a lot of attention, cause I have done that to myself, and then started looking and going, what? Why are there encumbrances in here from FY20? Oh, I'm still in 23.
Okay.
So, I did that to somebody the other day. I'm like, man, you got some old encumbrances in here. They were from 2 years ago, like. So double check that you put it back to the current fiscal year, cause I have done that more than once. But yeah, you can, we can change this one just to FY23, and it just loads it. So yeah, you can get an idea of what you've spent in previous years, yeah, and in what columns, and, probably even, hey, where did we usually pay for this, and find it. So I think that is all I have. No questions? Vicki, do you send out like a feedback thing?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So, yeah, if you guys think we need to address this a different way, or have things, Kayleen, like things you've learned that I maybe have never even thought of, don't hesitate to give that to her, so that I can make sure I'm giving people the best information going forward.